Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 229. Today I'm going to talk about Old World, New World. It's from Victory Point Games, plays 2 to 4 players. Now the box says 20 to 30 minutes, and this goes a little bit longer than that. Not a whole ton, but I have seen the game kind of, I guess you would call it bogged down, but it doesn't really bog down. It's not a negative thing. It just goes longer than 20 to 30 minutes. Now, it is kind of like Tsuro, which is Tsuro, which is a game I don't really care for. I've actually kind of liked Tsuro of the Seas just because it's kind of a chaotic nightmare of fun. But anyway, this one has a similar thing where you're trying to basically get your little ships or guys or units through these different paths that you're going to draw from one side of the board to the other. In Tsuro, you're kind of trying to route them around, keep them on the board. But this one you're actually trying to kind of maneuver through each other. So players are going to be around this sort of frame where they're playing these sort of path cards that are going to be like land and sea and different things. And you're trying to maneuver there and block the other players from getting basically across the board from wherever they're sitting. So let's take a look at how the game works, and I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, I got the frame set up here, and you can see along the frame there's these little tick marks like so. Along every so often you've got a little tick. And what these are kind of acting as is a guide for a grid that's going to act out on the board here. So each player is going to get 5 of these square cards here, and these are going to be being placed out here on the board, and they have different terrain on them: ocean, forest. They've also got mountains, and there's even volcano cards here. You can see the mountains there. Now some of these have different icons on them, which I'll explain in a second, as well as some of the cards just have special effects text, which I can't find any. Here's one. There's not a ton of these, but there's a few of them in here, and so you can play those for the special effect. Now you're basically going to be sitting across from each other. So in a 4-player game, everybody has an edge. You're trying to get your pieces to the other side, and so on. In 2-player games, you're going to sit directly across from your opponent. In a 3-player game, it's no different, except for the player that doesn't have an opponent across from them. They're going to go first always. Now each player is going to get 6 markers in their color here. And these are sort of dual purpose here. So if we take a look there, you can see there's a ship on that side, and there's sort of a land unit on that side there. So these are the pieces you're trying to actually get onto the board, and then across there over to, you can see the arrows here. So the opponent across from me is trying to land their pieces onto each of the arrows. And the first one to have 3 guys that basically exit all the way across the board and then land on an arrow wins. Once a guy is on an arrow, it's going to stay there, so you can't use that arrow again. You've got to use the other arrows there. There's also a couple of tokens here which sort of act as neutral units. They call them natives. Basically, these kind of get in everybody's way. And like I said, everybody's going to get 5 cards, and then on your turn, you basically have 2 options. You can play 2 cards, or you can discard any or all of your hand, and then at the end of your turn, you're going to draw back up to 5 cards. So either play 2, or basically chuck your turn, try to get some better cards, and then always draw back up to 5 no matter what you chose. So when you play one of these land cards, you can play this wherever you want. You've got to kind of keep it aligned with the grid. You can play it out here in the middle, across the table, wherever you want. Now the way that you get a unit onto the board is by playing either these little camps here or a port adjacent to your side. So if I put this one, let's say here, I can now put on 2 ships. So I can put on a ship on each of these ports here, like so. And if I had put a camp here next to my side of the board, let's say, then I can put these on as a land unit there. So they'll come on the board like that. Now what you're trying to do, like I said, is get your pieces across. Well, obviously land can go over land, and sea can only go over sea. So maybe the next thing I'll want to do is put this piece here, and now I've got sort of a contiguous line of ocean there. And then maybe the next one, I've got this card here. I can put this up here like so. And then now this gives me kind of a clear path. Whereas an opponent maybe see me, starting to build a nice little chain there. He'll throw some land down in my way there, and maybe the land helps him get his land units across there. Now there are volcano cards here, and these are the only cards that can actually be placed on top of another card. And when you do that, you're basically going to destroy all the units that were on there. So if this was placed here, we would discard, and then these units would come back into that player's supply. after this is on the board, this basically turns into mountain spaces there. Now these cards here with the icons also serve another purpose. So if you just play this and sort of discard it for the camp effect or the port effect, you can actually move your tokens. Now each token can actually do a free move on a turn if it starts on one of the ports. So as a part from one of my 2 card plays, I could move either of these ships, and the movement works as follows. It's basically like a rook in chess. You can take and move it in a orthogonal direction as far as you can go. Now other units will block it, so if I had that there, then this is going to block it, even if it's my unit or somebody else's. So always on your turn, whether in between your card plays at the end or after, anything that starts on a that's on the wrong side there. It starts on, you know, one of its like camps can actually move for free. So I can move that there, and then I can go up here and then maybe play another card here, and then I can now play this port card to actually move it. So to move a character or a token that's not on a port, you actually have to spend a card and use its matching symbol, and then now I can move that, you know, as far as I can in a single direction there. And likewise, the camps will actually move, you know, these units here, like so. So if this guy was, you know, a land unit, I could discard this, move him to here, and now since he's on a camp, he can now move again for free and go on to there. So if he went up to here, then I can actually stop him here if I wanted to, then even change directions there. So this is a kind of an interesting way as you get these different, you know, camps and ports out to sort of chain your movements. And, you know, you got to really kind of be careful of folks doing that and chaining them and getting them all the way across to their little exit points over there. Now the last thing you can do with these symbols here is actually convert a unit, because sometimes you're going to get stuck and there's not a good way out. So if I had this ship unit here, I can have him maybe next to a camp. If I discard this for the camp ability, I can flip this over to a land unit and then move him directly adjacent to the camp there. So they got to be adjacent, and then you can spend that and move him there, and then again he'll get a free movement and you can start chaining if you want. So these icons, again, they're good for bringing new units out as long as the icon's adjacent to your row. They're good for moving them, and they're also good for converting units back and forth. Now I should mention that a mountain space will actually stop a land unit. They can actually move out of there on the next turn, but they can move as long as they can down adjacent, you know, forests. But as soon as they hit that mountain, they've got to stop. So that kind of just slows you down, not permanently, but, you know, it'll slow you up a little bit. Finally, we've got these action cards here. I'm just going to show you a handful of these. You can play these as one of your 2 card plays. This one, choose an opponent's unit or native unit that is adjacent to one of yours and replace that with one of your color. Very effective and sneaky card to play on people. Here's a continental drift. Move a terrain card of your choice, one map section up, down, left, or right into an empty section, or rotate it 90 degrees. All units on this card move with it, so you can kind of move stuff around, or if you want to spin something, and then now you've got a, you know, linked up path to the next card. This is pretty cool for that. Pirates, pick any port space on the board. All units on that space and the 8 adjacent spaces are destroyed. There's a few of these. There's ones for these and also for the camps. So you don't want to be too close to those, especially if you get bumped up, because somebody is going to play that on you, and then, you know, you don't want to get too many units taken out in that way. And then here's the native cards. This will get out the native units here. So it says place a native unit anywhere on the board. Other units cannot move through it. It is affected by other cards that destroy units and stuff like that, and it can be bribed actually to, you know, change into that. So you can throw these in your way, and it's part of what you're going to be doing. As the board kind of grows, you're going to try to get into people's ways, block their really nice paths, because it's not too difficult to get a path across the board, you know, if you're unimpeded. So you're going to be kind of, you know, balancing that with trying to get your guys across the board, and that is pretty much the game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. Like I said, this plays pretty quickly. It does play a little bit longer than the box says. Actually kind of surprised how much I like this game, given that I don't really like Tsuro, which happens to be a popular game in my group for some reason. Now I played this 2, 3, and 4, and actually played it 4 first, and we were kind of discussing like how would this work with 3, but it actually works fine with 3, and I think it actually works best with 3 and 4. With 2, it's a little bit too much back and forth. You know, just kind of drawing to get the right card. It feels a little bit more lucky, I guess. But like I said, I've just played each of those the one time, each player count. But I like the added dynamic of having, more than just a head-to-head in this game. I like you have to kind of watch more than one player. The 3 works just fine because, like I said, you can play the cards wherever you want. It's not like you've got to hook up adjacent cards or, one guy's going to get a free reign. You can just slap a card down just to get in his way, and they've got to kind of go around him. So it actually works really well with 3, even though they don't have anybody directly going against them. You can block from any direction. You can sneak up and then, sort of T-bone them, if you will, in a way. So it works fine with 3. But yeah, it's really cool. It plays really quick. It's got some theme to it. It's old world, new world. You're trying to get from, one side of the earth to the other and try to block everybody from doing it. You got to play this with a light heart because you're going to get, your unit converted just as it's about to score. You've got that bribe card. You can actually switch the unit, and somebody else, you'll be blocking somebody, and then you just switched into them, and then they took and scored it with that unit. So I think the game would probably mire down into a never-ending battle if there wasn't any of that in the game. But there's not a lot of those cards. There's a handful. I'm going to say there's probably 10 total in a fairly good-sized deck. Let's look. What's the exact number? 14 action cards out of a total deck of 72. So yeah, so that's not too bad. I don't know what the percentage is. So when they've been played, they've been played, and there's only a handful of them. So you can kind of try to play a little bit of chicken with it. So I don't think it's that bad. I'm not a huge fan of like, I screw you, you screw me back, and all that. But there's not a lot of it in this game. And I don't know what it is about it. There's something interesting about creating these paths and networks on the board, which is, I kind of like the Suro of the Seas, even though it's a chaotic mess, because it's interesting to try to, stay away in that game, stay away from the dragons or the sea monsters or whatever they are in this. So this one you've got some maneuvering, but it's a push your luck kind of maneuvering. It's sort of like, you're hedging your bets on, where these battles may occur and remove units and try to, play a little bit of cat and mouse there. So it's kind of a betting game, if you will. It's not, strictly dry and tactical. Anyway, so that's Old World, New World. Take a look at it. Thanks.